A lot of people with sleep deprivation. It affects their job, their home life. At Room to Room, we want to take the guesswork out of buying a mattress, and that's why we brought in this technology. It shows you what you need. We want to do the assessment and find exactly what's perfect for you.
Turn it up!
Friday night, August 22nd, WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi tag teams with Memphis Wrestling to raise money for St. Jude. Join us at the Tupelo Super Show. Reserve your seat at memphiswrestling.tv.
When I feel like
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Welcome to Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon as we are tracking some showers and thunderstorms, including a severe thunderstorm warning in Franklin County, Alabama, that we'll look at in more detail here in a couple of minutes. Of course, want to welcome you into the Room to Room Weather Center as we're looking at the latest on tonight's rain and storm chances, where from time to time a couple of strong wind gusts are possible. Kind of like last night, a few tree limbs here and there, most likely to have some issues, but it's thankfully not everywhere. As we look again, the rain chances, this is as good as we're going to get for a while, because beyond this, the chances become a lot more likely that we're going to have dry air as we are working our way into false fall as we head toward next week, because we have some 80s, and we're actually going to talk to a meteorological expert, my mom, about summer peaking, which is something I never fully understand. She kind of explains that in a little more detail coming up a little later on this broadcast. You want to check that out? I found it entertaining and interesting as well at the same time. One of those little seeds, I think, that probably led me to this. We're going to show you the first 12 here briefly. As you can see, storms through the evening. And we're going to go hit an analysis mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. And we'll come back to this first 12 here in a second, talk more about the overnight hours. We want to get to where we do have some showers and thunderstorms out there, including that severe thunderstorm warning for parts there of Franklin County, Alabama. That in effect this evening here, as you can see, for Franklin County there until 6:45 p.m., as well as Colbert County. So this, I think, maybe just clips there, Lauderdale County on the north side there. So Florence, Muscle Shoals, Russellville, all under this severe thunderstorm warning for about the next 45 minutes or so. The storm kind of moving southward. Speed on is not terribly fast, only in the neighborhood of about 15, about 15 miles per hour, I'd say. Best way to look at these has been and continues to be probably the three-dimensional way in which we're doing so. And so kind of tilting this back here, you can see all the heavier precipitation with that. I'm going to cut into this as we kind of cut through a CAT scan, and just like doctors sometimes have to go there behind the scenes and kind of make sure we get it to just the right stuff. That's what we're going to be here as well. As we bring it into the latest scan here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, you can see where some of those brightest pink returns are there. That's where we have a high reflectivity. And the more reflective these storms are, typically the stronger they are as well. So again, we're looking here north of Russellville in particular and near Littleville. A couple of these spots where we have those pinks that do extend up fairly high. This one there, as you can see, very near the Franklin and Colbert County line there, the one we're concentrating the most on. Let's go ahead and slice it. As we slice it right there, we should be able to push it back into it. And the majority of that, it does not extend up super high, but we do have that one spot where some of those brightest returns do extend up about 10 to 15,000 feet, but that's not super duper high. So one of those signs, still some questions as to how strong this one fully is. Again, on the edge there, National Weather Service going ahead and taking the chance and not wanting to take chances, I should say, and issue this severe thunderstorm warning. So kind of assess the general threats on this. You'll see this is very much in the blue, largely like a lot of our thunderstorms today have been. Everywhere you see the blue, that's where maybe some hail. I would say it's more likely to be blinding rainfall, honestly, than anything else in a lot of these locations there. Do have one spot where now it's up trying to say around a 1-inch hail, and out there north of Cherokee, also another spot where that is the case. But again, if you're down here in Russellville proper, inside the city limits there in Russellville, this is not over top of you. The part we're most concerned with, at least at this instant, isn't. It's this part up here closer to Littleville that's working its way southward. So we're going to track this section up here. And again, it's not particularly fast moving. We'll extend that down at about, we'll say 10 to 12 miles per hour. Get you a time there into Russellville. We show Russellville, that shows 6:58. Of course, a thunderstorm right overhead, and maybe it picks up a little speed. Let's clear that, Gabe, and I'm going to go ahead and draw it. We're going to take it just a little bit faster, just in case it picks up a little bit of speed, because as it kind of collapses, that remains a possibility as well. Let's go and pull that down southward. Let's see if we can pull it closer to about 15, just in case. That might be pushing a little bit, but want to make sure we have the fastest time there, most reasonably speaking. Again, Waco, we're looking about 6:20 for you. We're getting closer to the Jonesboro, Alabama there, about 6:33. And this would say on the fastest end about 6:47. So somewhere about 6:45 to 7 o'clock, that heaviest part there, moving closer to the Russellville area there. Appreciate that, Gabe. As we bring things back on the wider shot, we have these thunderstorms that we've been tracking up here in the northern part of Mississippi. Some cameras that we've been using to kind of assess those up here in the Blue Springs area, one of those locations. Again, these mainly heavy kind of on the north side there. And as I kind of pan this over here, we're looking into that storm with that shot there. The darker grays, again, kind of has an ominous sort of look. And despite what the clouds look like here, no severe weather out of this. This is kind of what we call a roll cloud kind of working its way northward. 75 there in the Blue Springs area. Another shot from Pontotoc where we've had some rainfall around as we've gone throughout the afternoon. This is just kind of the leftover stuff there on this perspective at this instant. As you can see, just what we call the crepuscular rays, where the rays of sunshine, when you see those, that's kind of what we're looking at there. You can even kind of see the shadow, the way that part of it is. And this fuzziness there is the rain just kind of raining out of that storm. 75 right now in the Pontotoc area at this instant. Going down to Aberdeen, where we've had some off and on showers throughout the afternoon at this instant. 75 also there. Again, the gray because we have the showers around, but you'll note those showers are mainly light there in and around the Monroe County area at this instant. And that lighter variety rainfall, important, but it's not, again, accumulating to as significant a rainfall totals. We look at the rainfall rates. And again, most of that where you show just those kind of moderate greens there from Calhoun County back out here, even some of the blues showing up. Again, that's not particularly heavy rainfall rates, 1/3 of an inch per hour, 1/2 inch per hour. Again, that does start adding up, but you do have some of those cores there where you have the pinks. That's where it's really, really raining hard for some of those locations. And again, that's kind of more the exception to the rule at this point here, as we really saw our peak of rainfall an hour or so ago as these storms continue working northward. I mean, some spots there, Itawamba County, 2.5 inches, close to Smithville, about 3 inches of rain. Let's check out our camera there in the Smithville area at this instant. As we do that, you'll note that again, just kind of the gray and 75. The thing I like, and it's kind of precursor to where we go from here, that feels like temperature at 73, very, very manageable with most of the storms a little heavier up to the north of the Smithville area. Back to the regular precipitation mode on Mississippi Live weather radar here for a moment. And again, I'm looking up here closer to Saltillo, and we have had some showers up this direction, put this into motion over the last 30 minutes or so. We have a boundary moving northward, and you can just kind of barely see it there. A boundary of rain-cooled air kind of pushing back up against where our front is. We'll give it one more run here. I'll show it right there. Close to Boonville, kind of out this direction. As that works northward, we'll see additional development. You can already start to see signs of that up here north of the Boonville area and out there closer to Kossuth. So some spotty storms do continue, but I think the overall heavier thunderstorms were probably past the peak as far as that is concerned going into the remainder of this afternoon. A few of these thunderstorms still somewhat heavier back out here closer to Oxford, Batesville, Water Valley. We'll check out that camera there. We did have the Batesville camera last hour. We're going to check that out again here as things a little heavier in and around town. One of those boundaries of rain-cooled air, meaning this camera's probably going to bounce a little bit once it starts updating here in just a moment. Now show 102 for that temperature as of the latest update for what it feels like there. And again, that rain-cooled air kind of moving into the Batesville area. So some big relief out there for folks that, again, have been asking for it recently. So let's go back over here for a moment and we'll check out where we go kind of from here. Those temperatures, again, a big part of the storyline. And as we look back at that first 12 hours, the first thing you'll notice on that, again, our rain coverage is at its peak now and diminishes by later on tonight. So we lose the heating of the day. We're really working over the atmosphere. This is not likely to be something that really extends very deep in the overnight time period. 76 1 a.m. We're 73 by 4 a.m. And again, limited chances for rainfall early tomorrow. Low 70s begin the day. These heat alerts here still do have these heat advisories in effect until 8 p.m. this evening. Again, we're rain-cooled a lot of spots where you haven't seen the rain, obviously still hot. Those excessive heat warnings retracted southward, and all these will be eliminated for tomorrow. We're 104 for what it feels like out in Greenville, where again, rainfall has been more at a premium in the last few hours here. 101 Clarksdale, but you can see we've really been worked over here where these heat indices, 92 there in Bruce, about as warm as anybody is. 98 we show still in New Albany with that rain-cooled air moving in. 101 what it feels like Boonville, 102 in Corinth. But yeah, 68 in Starkville and 64 degrees feels like temperature because all the rainfall that we've had throughout the afternoon down in the Louisville area. A sign that things starting to think a little more fall-like. And this front certainly helping that to be the case. As we wind things out on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, that frontal boundary, again, working to churn up the atmosphere and produce the thunderstorms that we have had, including the severe thunderstorm warning that we'll get back to here in a minute up there in northern Franklin County. Again, this will begin to move southward through the area and continue to regenerate thunderstorms into the evening. You can see still fairly widespread in the northern part of the state. 10, 11, even to midnight before things really fully start to fall apart with this. And likely looking at clouds, but dry conditions for the first part of early Thursday morning. As again, we're going to go into a day that probably is going to be a lot drier, and that's largely the story for most days going forward for a little while. So as we look over the course of the next 24 hours, from 72 tomorrow morning, we're 77 by 9 a.m. and only 87 by noon. Listen, we're not cool. We're not cold. We're cooler. How about that? It's improvement, and this time of year, improvement's what we have to work off of there. We're 91, less humid on these northerly winds, bringing in more manageable layers of stickiness, meaning there's less of them, and 86, that temperature by 6 p.m. tomorrow. A slight chance for maybe a couple isolated pop-ups. Most of us are probably going to end up drying. As we look in the next 60 seconds, we'll have the very latest looking through your weekend forecast and improvement in temperatures there. We're also focusing in on some, of course, the extended rain chances. And I think we'll give you a look at the peak of summer from Mrs. Lawpon, I don't like to say the elder, my mother, who has for a long time always talked about summer peaking. I never fully understood what she meant by that, and she sends me a text message or an email every year. I got that a couple days ago. We'll go over that from, I guess, the original Lawpon forecast as Mississippi Live Weather at 6 continues right after this.
At Absolute Restoration, our team will feel magical since our focus is on serving you and your roofing needs. Finding a roofer who actually shows up and communicates, that's just one of the problems we solve by informing you of every step in the process.
Selling premium roofing systems backed by warranties and payment plans starting at just $99 per month. Trust Absolute Restoration to deliver.
Experience unicorn-level service and affordability from a team your community trusts. Call Absolute Restoration today.
What would you give for a child you loved? To make their wish come true? To help them fight a critical illness? Just imagine what you'd do. Every single one of us can make the stars align, because when we come together, hope and joy will shine.
Right now, from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lawpon.
Welcome back to Mississippi Live Weather at 6 o'clock. Again, we have a severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued for Colbert as well as Franklin County, Alabama. That in effect until 6:45 p.m. Some strong wind gusts possible out of this, perhaps a couple of hailstones. Looking at the various threats here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, we do show a few other spots where it's trying to say, hey, maybe we have 1-inch hail. I do think that's probably on the higher end here, but not an impossibility. Of course, you move those cars inside, you're in good shape, staying ahead of any issues that we have related to this. But just to encourage you to, of course, take this seriously, move those things inside as necessary, and of course we'll keep watching things very, very closely as far as that is concerned. Look here behind the scenes, I don't see my weather call stinger on this, so we'll have to, I guess, deal with that a little later. Of course, we talked about that during our 5 o'clock broadcast as well. Forecast for the weekend, that is looking like an improvement. Listen, both days not cool, but 93, right, Gabe?
Well, I need to say National Weather Service put out an issue saying that this is a cooler front, is what they called it. So there's your scientific terminology of what this front is.
We're selling this as cooler.
That's cooler than what we're at right now.
It's feeling cooler. It is feeling cooler. You're absolutely right. It is an improvement. And I think that's where I bring my mother, I keep calling her Mrs. Lawpon, I'm trying not to say an adjective there, in to talk about what it means when summer peaks, something that I'm still a little confused on, but I think she believes we finally hit that point. And let's listen to what she had to say. Okay, so this is the person who would know better than any other person on the planet what summer peaking means, which I have heard since my childhood, and maybe one of those weather things that is forever. What do you mean when you say summer has peaked?
I mean, it's probably gotten to the top summer, and it's on the way out.
Okay. So
I
has
live-
our summer peaked? Or has your summer peaked up there in Kansas?
Ours did, yes. Peaked a little early this year, about June 30th.
Okay.
That was the last hot day we had, and then it cooled down for a couple weeks. Now it's coming back. Last week it came back up a few degrees, but it never got as hot. And now it's cooling down again. Next, I look at it like a S&P 500 graph. It has peaks and valleys, but it goes up, same way it's coming down.
Okay. So there at least it's kind of peaked, right? So we have temperatures here that are expected to be in the low 80s next week. And so, I mean, clearly, this is a scenario I would call false fall. Do you think you're actually heading toward legitimate fall up there, or is August 20th too early to start thinking that?
Oh yeah, it's too early. We're not down. We're just kind of starting to lean towards fall. That's what I mean.
Okay, so we're tipping that way.
Yeah. We're on our way into fall.
Okay, that is Mrs. Sydney Lawpon, my mom, with the summer peak forecast. I appreciate that. Thanks, Mom.
All right. Bye. Love ya.
Love ya. And I have to admit, I did that impromptu in front of her, and she has always talked about, okay, and I get this text message every single year, and she's like, summer's peaked. And so in my mind, it always was, oh, that means, it's downhill from here. And that might not be truly downhill. There's still some ups and downs that go along with it. So has our summer peaked? I think we're probably past the absolute worst of the heat advisories, unless something goes super sideways here, which sometimes happens when we get into drought conditions. Certainly the rainfall today helping us out. Temperatures we talked about earlier on improved because of the rain showers. 75 in Amory and Tupelo, current temperature this time 73 there in Starkville and 72 in Louisville. In those heat indices up around 100 near the Tennessee state line and back out in the Delta. You can clearly see where that rain cooled air is spreading northward from that. Those heat advisories, yes, fully in effect for many locations, but we're starting to see, I think we'll have a lot less of us under those next couple days as the humidity is reduced. That makes an impact here. So here's the latest look at Futurecast. Again, storms trying to spread back to the north and west, kind of on the north side of this kind of boundary that's moving in. We drew that blue line on a little bit ago, that rain-cooled air, that outflow boundary. That'll continue generating thunderstorms on the northwest side up here, Batesville, Holly Springs out toward Corinth for the next couple of hours here, and then diminishing as we head later on into tonight with perhaps a few lingering sprinkles into the overnight hours. We're 72, that low temperature in Tupelo and Amory for tomorrow morning, coming about 73 Greenwood, 72 degrees in the Cleveland area, and then 60s near the Tennessee state line, and zero complaints coming up on that. Maybe that's the number we pay attention to. And perhaps a lingering sprinkle or two. I think this is aggressive on our Futurecast here to have really much lingering at all, but we'll have the leftover, what we call convective debris cloud cover from those showers and thunderstorms there as we progress into the midday time period in the afternoon. On the close shot here, you can definitely see those arrows representing the northerly winds bringing in that less humid air, which is obviously a big deal. As we go through 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., still mainly dry. And so while our shot here stays almost completely dry, you don't have to go that far to the south to see a lot more rainfall. So we're not that far removed from something more significant as far as rainfall is concerned, but we're on the dry side. We're on the downhill to a certain extent next couple of days. I mean, look at this. High temperatures, we're showing 87 there in Boonville, 88 degrees for your Thursday afternoon, coming to about 86 there in Iuka. We'll look at 91 in Houston and about 89 degrees in the Oxford area. That 89 will feel like 90. That's adding a single degree to what it feels like. That's obviously a huge improvement. It's not cold by any stretch. I mean, still feeling like 98 Greenwood, 98 Belzone, and 98 there in Greenville. So a little more difficult sometimes to rip away the moisture because of all the agriculture out there in the Delta and the proximity, of course, to the river. Most of the showers, again, south of us into tomorrow night as we stay dry with some clouds showing the offshoots of those showers down the south. I point that out because that is something to check in with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, tonight on Mississippi Live Weather at 10 on that live broadcast. We'll have an updated version of Futurecast. I'm interested to see whether or not it tries to redevelop some thunderstorms on that later tomorrow night that could maybe clip you down there in Kosciuszko and Louisville or Aliceville. But most locations north of that, we're not talking about a whole lot of activity for tomorrow. And then Friday, again, mainly dry with the active weather really not that far removed down to the south of us. On the much wider shot, you can kind of see way out there kind of exiting our grid of data, at least the highest resolution one we can show you. That is Aaron, still likely to be a hurricane into your Friday. We'll look in more detail at how Aaron's stats are working and how the tropics are looking with our meteorologist Gabe Maynard coming up here in a couple of minutes. But as that line there, that trough kind of stays down to the south, it keeps us away from the most unstable air, and so the slightly drier air making a difference. But this is the real front up here, right, Gabe?
That's the one.
So this is the one that will bring us the fall-like feel. You can see Friday evening still back into Kansas. That means by the first part of next week, that's when we see more substantial impact from that and the drop in temperatures. So highs on your Friday, going about 93 Cleveland, 95 there in Greenville, 95 Belzona. But notice even there, the temperatures coming in pretty similar to what the heat index is. Most of the heat indices, I mean, it's still late August. This is about as good as you get unless you have some kind of rain-cooled air that has spread through. So high temperatures, again, from today, much more manageable as we head into this upcoming weekend. But look at this huge drop into the first part of next week. And we can relate that directly back when we look at the heat indices here. We kind of didn't have a graph that had such a wide spread. Obviously, 105 plus for those heat indices today. And again, more manageable for the weekend, but then a huge drop off into next week. And that is because of another graph that, again, didn't stretch high enough here. And we go from 73, that dew point, that measure of moisture based on the same scale as the temperature. That's pretty sticky. That's what we've had recently, the true summer air. Less summer-like into the weekend. And then, dare I say, a little bit more fall-like as we look toward the first part of next week. That's an improvement there. The far extended forecast here, temperature outlook, putting us into the cooler category for not just the next week, but then you go beyond that, closer to 2 weeks out. And again, we're looking at a pretty likely scenario where we find ourselves in temperatures cooler than our 30-year average. That's always a comparison to normal. So we're not cold, but we're definitely cooler and more manageable by that point in time. So from 72 at 7 a.m., we're 87 by noontime and 89 degrees by 5 p.m. on your Thursday. 91 again, where we're going to be for the high temperatures. So at that peak, still a little below our 30-year average of 92. Temperatures come back a little bit more Friday and Saturday. Again, this first front is not the one with the real push. That one arrives by the latter part of the weekend. That's where we drive upper 80s there as we look toward Monday. And then by Tuesday and Wednesday into the lower 80s. Of course, that forecast goes beyond the next 7 days to 10 days in the Mississippi Live weather app. Okay, we're going to talk to our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, here in a couple of minutes. Very latest on what's going on in the tropics. We'll also have another look at Mississippi Live weather radar and that severe thunderstorm warning going on in Franklin County, Alabama. That, as Mississippi Live weather at 6 continues right after this.
If you're facing a DUI charge, every decision matters. At the law office of Andrew W. Stewart II, we provide a skilled defense to protect your record, rights, and future. Call today or visit drewstewartlaw.com. Your future is worth defending.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
Well, we're bringing all the parents into the broadcast tonight, Matt. I mean, we got your mom, my dad.
Do we got to call Caleb up? Caleb's parents up?
Yeah, Caleb, go ahead and call your mom or dad. We'll have them air at 10.
Do we have something weather-related they can say at this point?
I'll have to find out.
They can track the rainfall. They're down in Starkville, so they're in the thick of all of this. Well, speaking of water vapor and that moisture that's in the air, we're getting a large part of that back there towards North Mississippi. Actually, I mean, a pretty clear spot of where that front's moving through there on the boot heel of Missouri. Those drier conditions moving in place of this moist atmosphere we've been experiencing. But there's a look at Aaron out in the tropics, still at Category 2 strength and continuing to move up the Atlantic coast. As we track that out, we can get the latest advisory that has been issued, and we see that we are Did I pause it too soon? Okay, there we go. 110 mile an hour on those wind gusts, 943 millibars on our pressure level, and that continues to climb just a bit into that Category 3 threshold. Now it's going to be teetering on the low end Cat 3, high end Cat 2 for the next 12 hours or so, but really as it moves up the Atlantic coast, starts to diminish a good bit in strength, dropping back to about 110 miles an hour come early Friday morning, and then well into the northern Atlantic beyond that point. You can see steering clear of the central United States, the central 48, but getting close enough to those Virginia and North Carolina coastlines that those tropical storm warnings still remain in effect as a result of some of those stronger wind gusts wrapping around.
Was that projected to go back up to Category 3 yesterday? I feel like that's...
It showed increasing in strength by about 5 miles an hour on those wind gusts, but it didn't have it getting all the way to Cat 3 because Cat 3 starts about that 115 and up, whereas Cat 2 is 115 and below. So you're right on that cusp of anywhere 110 to 115. So it's better to say high end Cat 2 or low end Cat 3 to kind of accommodate for both of those thresholds. But still just 5 miles an hour. So it's still an intense storm, no matter if you put a 2 or a 3 in front of it. As Aaron moves up the Atlantic coast, up the Canadian coastline, you can see Cat 1 dropping into a tropical storm there early. I believe that is Saturday, and then Sunday continues that track back up there into the United Kingdom. So basically taking a round trip of the Atlantic, but a strong storm and definitely one that we are grateful did not move inland here to the United States and did not cause tremendous impacts like what the potential was if that were to steer a little bit more inland. But as we look at a few more of those disturbances, this one out there just above the Caribbean, 10% chance of developing over the next 2 days, 60% over the next 7. You might notice this is following a similar track as Aaron did, not nearly the strength, but starting to trend a little bit more northward, and that's a result of that frontal boundary that's actually impacting us right now, starting to carry the system up the Atlantic coast once again, and then carrying it away from the United States. So fortunately, not getting those impacts. Where we could see some impacts is on this development further out there towards the African coastline, 40% chance of development over the next 2. Same thing for the next 7 at 40% chance. Ways away from experiencing this, so let's go ahead and get some of our long track models. And I want to say in advance, we're not really expecting significant impacts from either of these storms as of right now, because that one back there towards the African coastline, not going to be a long-lived storm, at least not on this projection. The one we're paying attention to is going to be that 60% chance of development that we were tracking, that first disturbance that we showed. So let's go ahead and walk through that. As it moves up the Atlantic coast, you can definitely see where it starts to wrap around a little bit tighter there by our Friday evening and Saturday morning. So meteorologist Caleb Edelblut will have lots to talk about, as I do expect that to increase into, I just looked this up. What was the next name? Is it Fernand? I think it is Fernand. Ooh, I was deep in the vault. I had to pull that out.
There we go. That is not. See, that's where you're like, you embarrassed me on that one because I.
Well, I've been doing it this research on the names because Gabriel. I know it's Gabrielle, but we're close enough to my name to where it's like 2025. I'm a part of it this year.
So what? How if and when Gabrielle,
yeah.
Which are you? Is that what you're going to say? Or are you going to say Gabriel?
I don't know. I'll probably mix in.
You
Gabriel
need to say Gabrielle. Is it Gabriella or Gabrielle?
Gabrielle. It ends on E.
Okay.
So however you want to call that, but I think isn't it Gabrielle?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. So Gabrielle, but that's 2 storms from now. This would be Fernand if it were to continue to increase in strength. So again, Caleb will be walking us through that forecast. That's starting to wrap around a little bit stronger there. That's why I believe this definitely has the potential to become a named storm. That's going to be happening by your Sunday evening, Monday morning, starting to get some of those blues that show up. But there's that frontal boundary that we're experiencing right now, starting to move off the Atlantic coast and carrying this one out to sea. So moving it north and then primarily transitioning that to the northeast track, basically riding up that jet stream, which is of course what you see right here, but that frontal boundary along that leading edge of the jet, so carrying that into the northern Atlantic closer to about Tuesday or Wednesday. And you might notice that you have not seen anything move into the Caribbean or anything into the Gulf, and that's that next development that we're watching. Forecast models are not really high on the development of that, has it primarily remaining closer to that African coastline before diminishing in strength once again. So Thursday morning, basically non-existent by that point as it moves into the northern Atlantic. So definitely keeping eyes on that in the extended forecast. But we have a lot to talk about here in North Mississippi with rain chances. And that's where I'm going to bring in our Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lawpon, for more on those rain chances and just what to expect with the rest of these storms this evening. I'm going to put it back on analysis mode for you. Okay. So you can walk through that. But yeah.
Okay, we'll kind of look at some what we have out there still with that severe thunderstorm warning. And you can double check if we have any additional pictures in there as well. That have kind of come in the last last few minutes here. We're back here again. This is where we left analysis mode a little bit ago, and you can see our storms have kind of expanded in. Let's look up here at Tishomingo County, because we do expect it's probable we'll probably also have some expansion there in the Tishomingo County, and how strong that is kind of the next question on where this sort of goes. So let's put this into motion here for a moment, give you a 1 hour loop as this kind of expands back kind of in a westward way. Give this a loop again here one more time. So we have kind of that boundary where these storms are developing, and then of course everything is coming in. Let's clear this off. Let's clean this up for a moment. So as we do so, looking there at Minot back there toward Frankfurt, where this is kind of the strongest still in that portion. And I think we were almost, we were worried again, we were overdoing the speed. These summertime thunderstorms, it's really easy to overdo the speed to where we track it faster than it should be. And so I'm still gonna go, I'll go 10 to 12 there. Let's go 15. Because I take that back. That looks like that has expanded in pretty well. Let's do a 1 hour loop here. Give me just a moment. Totally wrong. That should be 19 miles per hour. Okay, so let's go and track it a little faster there. This one actually has some motion, which is something we have not had a lot today, where a lot of these thunderstorms, I think, don't really have a ton of forward motion. This one actually is doing a decent job. So we can actually show a few more folks on the track here. So let's slide that back over the other side now. Right about there. So bring it to now. So that gets that closer to what we got there. Bell Green by about 634. Carroll Crossroads 633. Close to Posey Mill about 639 there. Old Nauvoo at right around 644. Duketon 646. Nix at 646. Eventually Liberty Hill close to about 650. Again, that is a just gusty wind primarily, and most likely that's probably below severe limits largely, but you can see we do still have a severe thunderstorm warning that remains in effect for Franklin County until 6:45. And again, going back in and looking specifically at the wind mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar out of the Columbus Air Force Base radar there, I mean, you can definitely see the overall green associated with that, and we're looking fairly high up, so nailing down to specifically what it is. Don't show a whole lot there of significance, but certainly just generally some gusty wind, maybe 50 to 60 mile per hour trying to slide there toward Russellville. Typically these kind of storms are fairly short-lived on their overall potential. Let's go ahead and let's look out here at Tishomingo County. We talked about this a minute ago. We'll look 3D on this batch here, and it is holding something extra up there in the sky with it. I'm gonna do a longer one of these sort of assessments, one of these graphs, so I can also catch the severe warning there in Franklin County. And let's kind of slide the angle there. So you can see this one, Tishomingo County, only up around 20, 25,000 feet on some of the tops of that there. The one farther to the east is a little bit more impressive with that, but even then, still, I'd say that remains relatively limited. So I'm not overly impressed by any of that. Let's go wide here. And let's check and see if there's something a little more significant. Again, possibility maybe some sporadic wind damage out of that. Let's look at these storms closer to Oxford and back out there between Oxford and Batesville. That one closer to Batesville there, kind of on the northeast side, does look a little bit more impressive. I want to see, visually speaking, if that one near Batesville is a little more impressive now. And so checking that out, and we'll swing the camera if we need to. Give me a moment here to double check the angle, because I do think we're probably going to have to change that somewhat. And let's pull up the Batesville. And let's see if we can change the presets. Now we're going to have to actually manually move that there. So give me a moment to swing that around. So that's, sorry, I went way past it. So I got a little excited there for a second. So that's our thunderstorm there. Those look pretty decent to the naked eye. Low-hanging stuff, fingery stuff, just gusty wind. No tornadoes out of this. 95 there in the Batesville community. Looking back kind of toward, this would be kind of toward the east, northeast. So you can see it on the graphic there. We're looking directly back into the heavy rainfall associated with that. Some gusty winds as well. This really yet to put down. I saw a pretty decent little lightning strike a moment ago right there. That was there before, right? You got a little bit of a, hold on. I'm going to look up here on the, no, okay, that's pretty close there. I was wondering if I had a little delay. That probably was there before, I would guess, but that's almost exactly where it looked like that lightning struck. So that's probably got to be something else. Looks like that's a plant there. So anyway, Interesting. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here for a second. Now, all my boxes changed from where I had them during the 5 o'clock broadcast.
I did it. I just wanted to make your life hard.
Probably. No. Let's see here. We'll bring this one up here. I added the one thing with my mom, and it just completely scrambled that. Hold on. Maybe. No. Anyway, what do you got?
Well, since she's in Kansas, she might have some insight for some of those storms because Kansas, Tornado Alley, right?
Well, that's where you think I got it from.
Well, we love the fact that we were able to bring her in, and we have loved just the community that we have here at Mississippi Live Weather of you guys submitting pictures in and around the field. This was from Olga in Fulton, and you can see this was just from moments ago when some of those scud clouds definitely developing, some lowering there in the clouds, not tornadic, but at least looks a little bit more menacing than what it is. I'm going to go back over here. We have more pictures from Fulton. This one submitted by Connie. A better look of that cloud. You can kind of zoom in right there and get a visual. Again, just these dark clouds blanketing the sky and bringing some heavy rainfall as a result. We have Daisy and Randolph submitting this picture of just some of those gray, dark gray clouds showing that heavy rainfall happening over there towards the Randolph area. We also have pictures. This was actually, Caleb, does it look familiar?
That would be me.
Yeah, Caleb, weather watcher out in the field. Definitely a trooper today, getting us some shots down there in Starkville. And that was a decent look at that shelf cloud as it moved through earlier today. So a little bit more organized down there towards Oktibbeha County. But now as it follows that boundary here on the northern side of the state, definitely starting to get more organized as well. Hence why we have a severe thunderstorm warning towards Franklin County. Now you might be looking at this picture wondering, Gabe, why are you showing us plants?
Yeah, why?
Well, because Leanne in Columbus has an issue and she wants her plants watered. And the only way that we can help out is by giving her some rainfall.
Water.
I think we need a rain dance, Matt. And we got to invent one at this point.
Well, I mean, we don't want to break phones. They're expensive.
Well, maybe Mike there in West Point can share some of his rain because a heavy rainfall. Actually, I think this was the Randolph picture, actually. Whenever I get my mind around to it. This was Daisy in Randolph submitting this heavy shower over there.
Yeah.
So Daisy, share some of that rainfall there with our friends there in Columbus and Lowndes County. Leanne needing it for her plants. I know we needed it for our plants, but report from the Maynor household, we got some rain. Finally, praise God. So that's what we're tracking in and around the area. Matt, just says blanket of stratus clouds in the sky, bringing with it that heavy rainfall and a few severe storms at times. But fortunately, no damage reports as of right now.
As of right now, of course, if you have something to share, as you saw Gabe, those are all reports that came in with Mississippi Live Weather app that he is sharing with you, and appreciate any of you guys for sending those reports in. Kind of the aftermath of some of the showers there. You see kind of the mistiness showing up, kind of rising from the trees there on what is a humid but thankfully cooler evening. Amory coming in 75 degrees. As we kind of wrap things up here for a moment on Mississippi Live Weather at 6. Again, looking back up here, we're watching some of those storms closer to Batesville as we were talking about a little bit ago. These thunderstorms, though, overall, in comparison to what we have, most locations relatively weaker, and we do think that they have gone ahead and canceled the severe thunderstorm warning a little earlier over here for Franklin County. Nope, I take that back. I just have it covered up in precipitation. Hold on. So let's get back over here to the lowest scans here. Yeah, still show that in effect again until 6:45. If you do have reports to share with us, you can use the Mississippi Live Weather app to do that. Give me a moment as I kind of look through our chat with the National Weather Service here for a moment. Still watching the storm closest to the Cherokee area there. But then that would have been as of 6:18, so that's the latest update we've seen. That's almost 20 minutes ago there. So that's a good sign. That means we don't have a whole lot of reports coming out of this. Usually a good sign on whether or not that we'll see some kind of extension. Typically, we got a lot of reports when we're looking at an extension. New update there, and does look like they are going to expire it. And basically, that's way behind the scenes. They cancel without canceling. So that tells us, again, they also believe the threat down on that. But that storm closer to Batesville, I'll show one more time because I'm also watching that on kind of our camera here to the side. And we'll leave you with this as we kind of head out of Mississippi Live Weather at 6, because this is probably one of our stronger storms about to kind of cross there along 55 toward the Batesville area. We'll pop that on your screens. Give me a moment for that to happen. And so then you can kind of see, of course, there's the heavy precipitation starting to hit. I'll pan the camera back over gently, hopefully, into that area there. This kind of darker, kind of greenish gray sort of color you see here, that's all that heavy rainfall, that's all the red that you see there, kind of moving toward the Batesville area, certainly the north side of town, a little heavier at this point here. A reminder, of course, Mississippi Live Weather app, free and available for all those different devices, a good way to stay ahead of the weather forecast. And of course, we do our live streams on there. We're on Facebook and Twitter and all those other places. Coming up tonight at 10 o'clock, our meteorologist Gabe Maynard looking at the adjustments related to just how cool we're getting the extended forecast. Hopefully some significant improvement there from the Room to Room Weather Center. Of course, he'll be looking at any showers and thunderstorms we still have out there at that point and time. And of course, showing any of your Weather Watcher pictures that you choose to share with us. So you can check us again for Mississippi Live Weather at 10 o'clock. Gabe will have the very, very latest related to that. We appreciate you watching us here at 6. Appreciate you making it through some of our audio issues we've had from time to time. And Gabe looks like he's got some additional information. Yes, Gabe?
You need to thank your mom, too.
I got to thank Mrs. Lawpon, my mother, for giving us her update on the peak of summer. Of course, our Caleb Edelblut behind the scenes here, making sure our audio has worked okay for this show. Hopefully we're good at 10 o'clock and we squash that bug. I think I know what's causing it. I think we'll fix it by then. We'll see you for Mississippi Live Weather at 10.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious when he began to discover weather. Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
'90s will be the story for tomorrow. You can see our high 98, but those rainy conditions still trying to fight that uphill battle to provide just some of us with that.